From Informa Tech Target, I'm Beth Pariseau, and this is IT Ops Query. This podcast distills the signal from the noise about enterprise software development and platform engineering. Each week, we'll talk to expert guests about the latest tech industry news and trends that engineering and IT leaders need to know. Don't forget to subscribe to IT Ops Query for more conversations on AI and the future of the enterprise digital workspace. Suzanne Livingston has worked at IBM for 19 years, most recently in the role of Vice President overseeing product management for the IBM Watsonx Orchestrate AI agent platform. Her previous roles at IBM have spanned areas including enterprise asset management, blockchain, Watson Financial Services, collaboration, and social software. She's also been a member of the Board of Trustees for the Mass Technology Leadership Council since 2019 and holds a master's degree in system design and management from MIT. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you so much for having me, Beth.
Staying warm, I hope, here in chilly Massachusetts.
Oh, it's been brutal, but we're making up for last year.
It's true. It's true. So it's been about 9 months since IBM launched Watsonx Orchestrate. And in that time, virtually every major IT vendor has also launched an AI agent orchestration platform. So how does IBM differentiate Watsonx Orchestrate from all the competitors out there like ServiceNow and Microsoft and others?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Beth. In fact, like many of them are cooperative with Orchestrate, not necessarily competitive. Although surely, you can look at it in that lens, given that we have agent building platforms. Orchestrate is a bit more than an agent building platform, though. It is focused on multi-agent orchestration across multiple domains. So if you think about like a platform that's built with, let's say you have an HR system and that HR system came with some agent development tools and building tools. Well, that's great. You can use those agents. They work with your HR system. But often what we see are the use cases where an enterprise is trying to orchestrate among many systems. So let's say that HR system actually needs to communicate with a sales system and pull records from that sales system into a corporate profile. Or it needs to interact with a directory service that's homegrown by that enterprise. So there's many different interaction points that an agentic workflow may need to take into account. And so this is really where Orchestrate's sweet spot is. We like to treat any agent that comes into the platform as a part of the platform, whether it was built on Orchestrate or not. And then we have the intelligence to orchestrate the workflows behind it. So which agents should I be calling? Which tools should I be calling? Which services should I be using on the back end? And where should I be passing this request to next? Validate that the responses are accurate and correct from a governance standpoint, ensure that it's complying with my policies, and then present the answer to whoever's using it. So we think very much of the Microsofts of the world, the SAPs, the AWS, the hyperscalers as part of that ecosystem, as part of the group of agents that need to communicate and collaborate in order to create a request and fulfill that request. And that's really where we come into play. So if it's just for that system, fine. But often the types of use cases we see are multi-agent, multi-domain, multi-cloud, sometimes on-prem even.
Right. Okay. It does sound kind of similar to ServiceNow's value prop a little bit, because they also can manage third-party agents, and their argument is, you're already using us as a system of record in many cases for things like IT Service Desk. Do you tend to see them competitively at all, or?
Not really. I mean, we do have a lot of companies who will come in and say, I have some agents that have been built with ServiceNow. Every single one of these platforms enables you to do some third-party integrations, but they can be limited. And like the limitations that they have may require that you have to go and create a lot of custom code in order to deal with that drawback. And so where we come into place is customers of ours who are using ServiceNow will say, okay, I want to be able to create, let's say, a ServiceNow ticket, but I want that to be automatically generated based on the result of a threshold, let's say, being reached in another system. And in order for them to evaluate that, having to do a lot of custom agent development and custom build is not really what they're trying to do. They don't want to rewrite every other agent outside of that platform. So that's really where we come into play. Same is true for many others who are looking to break into that like open space, I think it's great. The more open that the platforms are in agents of choice, then the better output we're going to get, and the more tweaking that we can do along the way as to what agents are giving us the best answers. And that's really what our companies want, our clients want.
Sure. And then, of course, obviously, this market is not holding still. So, how must Watsonx Orchestrate continue to evolve to support context engineering for AI agents among the other trends that are emerging?
Yeah, I think again, the areas that our customers are pushing us into because of their need is one, multi-agent orchestration won't. It's not done, right? Like we're not done with multi-agent. There's so much more that we can do. There's more intelligence that we can provide. In the early use cases, there may be 5 agents that you need to collaborate with. Now I'm talking to companies who have 50 plus agents that we need to have a decision path down, which one of these agents is the right one to take this request the next step further. IBM actually does that. So at IBM, when I come in as an employee, I come to like the homepage that every employee has access to. Sitting right there on that homepage is an agent, and that agent is like, "What? How can I help you today?" That "How can I help you today?" is integrated into a series of agents that are tied into backend systems. Some of them would be a success factors agent, let's say from HR. Some of them will be a sales agent coming from our CRM system, IT agent. So if I come in and I say, today I need to order a set of laptops for my brand new department, it needs the intelligence to know to route me to the procurement department, not the IT department. Yeah. And like that level of, okay, I'm going to route you not just to a general purpose agent, but to the one that is there to fulfill that request for you ordering those laptops. That's a very simple example. But the next day I may come in and say, well, actually, now I need to create a new job requisition, or it may be very general. I may say, I need to grow my team, and then get back the right response from, well, what are my options? And those scoped to the context of me, Suzanne, because in Suzanne's world, there may be different parameters around how can she grow her team? What can she do? So that level of knowledge that's needed in order to help the agent make the right choices, and the plethora of tools that's available to it as MCP servers are coming online, we're getting more and more actions that these agents can take, and knowing that it's the right one. So I don't think we're done from an orchestration standpoint. There's a lot more that we can do. There's more intelligence. There's more agent types that we can provide to help make the right call. That's one area. The other area is around this concept that, and surely you've seen this, right? Not every process, not every workflow needs to be fully agentic. In fact, in some cases, it's better for you to follow a discrete set of steps and be deterministic. And so when should this agent have the agency? When should this agent follow deterministic steps? We've actually built into the platform a whole set of tools to help with this problem. Some of the agents that we are importing from other platforms is because they need some determinism. We're helping them build that determinism in. So take your agent. Maybe your agent is going and creating an offer letter for an employee. It's very agentic. It's pulling the right information that it needs to in order to create that letter, but it has to follow a set of steps because there's some compliance around how you are doing your hiring. And if you don't follow these steps in this specific order, you're actually out of compliance with the hiring process. So building in that sequential set of steps that the agent is going to take, and knowing when to invoke those steps, that is part of where we see a lot of our companies who are adopting, trying to balance that world. And that's where our tooling comes in to help. So that's another area that we're spending a significant amount of time in growing. And then I would say lastly is the openness. And we've already talked about that to begin with. But I no longer come into a company who's going, help me get started with agent development. They're coming in and saying, I have hundreds, dozens sometimes, maybe even enterprises that don't realize they have thousands of agents. Now, those agents are not all enterprise grade. They're not all ready for production, but they're in development in different pockets in their organizations with a myriad of tools. How can you help us get control over this? Are these being evaluated as they're being developed? Do they give you the right answers? Like, are they giving you the results that you have tested and that your evaluations are showing are acceptable for our population and for this type of use case? Can we set thresholds on acceptable levels? So if it is that highly regulated side of our business, then it's got to be 98% or above. If it's our, create an HR job requisition, maybe we can lower that to something that's maybe 90% or above. So these types of governance questions. And then once we're running it, how well is it performing while it's running? Is the latency so poor that my customers are not getting the customer care they need? And being able to give that feedback in real time. What is happening? Look at my dashboard, be able to see which agents are not performing, help understand and optimize them, take them offline if needed, and then make modifications. We make suggestions. How do you improve this agent? So that whole life cycle, there's so much more that needs to happen. There's so much more work that we are geared up to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk so far in this new year about that governance question and the I've heard it termed trust deficit in AI in production. So, what should organizations know that they don't know about their AI agent approach? What are they getting wrong about how they approach this, do you think?
I think most of the time they feel like they have to make an investment in a single vendor or a single platform, and that's just not the case. And I think maybe some of that is legacy from previous days of, hey, I'm coming in building AI applications. I really just need to build them all on this one platform in order for me to get the benefit, right? I have to train this data. I have to train my model, and if I fracture that, and if I spread it so thin in my enterprise, then I'm not going to get the best results. So I need to go all in on this one area. I don't foresee that as a problem with these agents. You can choose to build your agent where you need it to be, but you do need the visibility and the governance around that agent so that you know if it's performing well with its peers and with other agents that are on the platform. And so like I mentioned, we've been very focused on giving you tooling so that you can see traces on the agent, you can see performance, you can take action on them, but you don't have to have them all be built just on the Orchestrate platform. It can come from a myriad of different areas. That's one. The other is in, I think, the amount of time it takes to get from pilot to production. There's there's a lot of, hey, I can build this agent in 5 minutes. I myself, if you go to my LinkedIn page, I have videos showing you me building an agent in 5 minutes. It's not uncommon to hear and to see. Now,
Right.
turning that into a production grade use case that I'm going to give access to, 100,000 plus employees, that takes a different level of am I integrated into the right tools? Do I have single sign on for these employees engaged? Do I know the context of the employee well enough? What if there are, two of you in the organization? Am I picking the right context for this agent? So there's a lot more that needs to happen in order to get you to production. Enterprises do that within the span of a few months, but they do need to make sure that they're dedicating the time to ensuring that the agents are performing the way that they want them to before they roll them out, including to their customer bases as well, especially when those agents are external and they're serving their customer population as well.
And I appreciate the point about sort of having a mix of different tools and no one tool to rule them all. But then, of course, you have sort of the integration challenge when you're putting together different systems. So, how do customers overcome that? Is that what takes a few months to get things up and running? Or is it more about
It's
security?
not the agents themselves, but it's more the backend systems.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I have the right access and context being passed? Do I know what Beth has access to in the system? Am I ensuring that the level of access control is being consistent to that backend system? This is what takes a lot of time and a lot of the checks. Because again, one simple use case, create for me a job requisition. Very easy to do. I can give it some context, say what I'm looking for, go out there and find the best examples of a job requisition for the type of job I'm looking for, do a great job of putting that together for me. Then when I'm asking it, okay, but list it, list that job requisition for me. There's a whole set of additional information. Some of it's coming from an HR system. Some of it's coming from a talent recruiting system. Some of it's coming from potentially a homegrown system that we're using for specialty talent searches and talent finding. And it's making sure that what needs to get integrated into that experience from those systems, either they're API calls that have tools that are represented in the system. Some of them are MCP servers that are available now for these services that we need to tie in. It's all of those checks. And that's just an example of a simple agent. There's some very complex multi-agent use cases that have multiples of these. And that's really where a lot of time needs to get put in, making sure that it works well. Most of the time when we're running into production challenges, like getting a company to production, it's in the integrations. It's not necessarily the agents are pretty simple. Like it's
Mm.
a set of what can you do and returning results, but those results are coming from a system that's delivering that information to the agent that the agent is taking into account as it's progressing you through the workflow.
So when companies tend to go through that process successfully, is there any set of best practices that emerges for that integration or, any pattern to success there yet?
Well, having very clean data is a good start.
Hmm.
We're uncovering while we're in these client deployments where pockets of data are not as up to date as they thought, and that's fair. I'm sure there's a lot of complexity in keeping their systems up to date, as there are even for me. If I go into one of my systems, making sure that were the records updated, were they updated accurately, were using the right type of content for them. So that's one area where it can, if you're getting a result that you weren't expecting, one of the attributing factors to that is making sure that the data is well prepared to be able to work inside that agent use case and that agent context. And then the tie-ins and the connectors to these systems, those often they seem simple. Like I'm going to single sign on Suzanne into another system. Well, it turns out it's not really Suzanne who single signed on into that system. She's part of a team, and that team is actually the one who have access to it. And so, having to do these valid checks between the agents, we take care of that. Our system will make that flow happen for you, but we still need to make sure that it's doing the work on the back end that it needs to be taking.
But there are some unsolved problems in that access control space for agents, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
we have our solution that we're working with customers on rolling out. I think that there is room for us as an industry to come up with like a general purpose model that could apply. And I'm eager to see where this goes and also potentially have us help shape the direction that it's going in. We built out our back model for our agents so that they are able to integrate with others and also so that they're passing the right person, context, identity, um, to the point where we're actually seeing agents being represented as individuals. Like this is the HR agent. It
Hmm.
has a listing in the directory. It has a almost like an ID, like you would. As I have an ID. This agent has an ID, and it's rated on its performance. How well is it working? And then obviously being able to pass the right context between that agent and the different systems that it's integrated into.
And that's all within Watsonx Orchestrate, or does that call for a
Yes.
separate? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's a couple options that you have when you use the platform. One is you can keep your agents running where they are, and then let's say you're using a different platform, it's been in production, you don't want to touch it, but you want that agent to collaborate with agents that are in Orchestrate. Maybe you've tied in other systems, you're using it for different domains within your business, or maybe you're using it for customer care. We have a lot of customer care clients. So that agent now you want to have it treated as a reference inside of Orchestrate. You can do that, and it can still live where it lives, different runtime.
Mm.
That's one model. Sometimes we see that a company says, "Okay, well, we want this agent now to be brought into the Orchestrate platform because we want your governance capabilities to oversee it. We want it to." We want to continue to build it out. Maybe we wanted to treat that as a template, but we want to give our business users access to it so that they can go and build off of that agent, which is something that we also allow you to do in the Orchestrate platform. I can take an agent, a template of the agent in just from the web browser. No, I don't need to have the agent development kit or the ADK installed. I can do this simply from the browser. And so that's another reason they may want to bring that in. They may want to have Orchestrate be the runtime for the agent. And so there's some benefit for them to do that. They have all of their agents on the same runtime. They have better analysis of how the evaluations and tracing is working for that agent. So if you get to that point where you want to bring it in, you can import that agent into Orchestrate and then have it run on the Orchestrate runtime. So, there's options for you if that's an area that you're, look, I've made investments. I want to keep them where they are, but I also now want to expand those investments. I have that choice.
Right. So if I keep the, agents where they are, if they interact with agents that live in Orchestrate, how does the governance get applied there? Does that come from the other platform, or does it?
That's the reason why they would bring it into
Ah,
Orchestrate, is because
okay.
they want to have deeper governance and
Mm,
overseeing. They may have like evaluations that are running on that agent in its context, but what
mm.
they won't have is, what can we evaluate across all of the collaborations that are happening with that agent and ensure that we're getting the right output. So that's one of the drivers to, okay, let me bring this into the Orchestrate platform. And now that it's there, I'm able to do evaluation across the board.
Right. So in the case where you're orchestrating with third-party agents, how do you protect the agents that are within Orchestrate from anything going awry? Since you can have third-party agents kind of connected, how do you manage the governance in that case?
So one of the reasons why companies will bring their, let's say, third-party agent into the Orchestrate platform is so that they can govern it more securely. They get evaluations that can be done across the board on that agent, along with the other agents that it's collaborating with. They have visibility into how it's performing. They can optimize that agent. If they choose to run it elsewhere, then they're taking the responsibility of ensuring that they can govern that agent. And so, um, if the actions that are related to the Orchestrate agents are not within the proper guardrails, then we won't allow that agent to proceed. If that action is taken elsewhere and that is happening on that third party agent, we as Orchestrate don't have visibility into what's happening there because it's elsewhere. So that is a common driver for wanting agents to be within the Orchestrate context.
Right. But are there partners that maybe you could kind of collaborate with more deeply with their agents?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a catalog. So if you go into the Orchestrate product, you'll see a set of pre-built agents, some of them running within Orchestrate, some of them running outside. And those are partnerships that we work closely with. They've gone through our onboarding process. They've gone through our checklist of requirements in order for them to participate. And so, yes, in those cases, we are proud of the ones that are part of our catalog, and we have checked them and we've worked with them thoroughly. Whereas, I can take an agent that's built anywhere and then also have that be treated as a collaborator.
Okay. Then in the meantime, there's also the question of human AI collaboration as the sort of next big phase of enterprise AI adoption. How do you see that developing over the next year, say?
Yeah, well, I would say that this has been around for quite a bit. And so, one of the early use cases for Orchestrate that has been dominant for us as a platform is in customer care. So think about, actually, even on my phone, I have my health insurance company is an app. When I go into that app and I say, ask a question to that app, to that health insurance company, I'm actually using Orchestrate under the covers. They're a user. So I may ask, hey, I had a injury, an athletic injury. I want to know if physical therapy is covered for that injury. And I start asking questions of that. It's giving me back answers that are specific to my plan and specific to me as an individual. May even be asking me to take it a step further and say, you know, here's additional services that are available to you. That customer care use case isn't it doesn't end always with me just chatting with an agent. Sometimes that request, that question I'm asking actually needs to be routed to a human agent. And so we are now very commonly taking a human in the loop approach to certain agents that are going to need to have either a human in the loop for an approval, human in the loop for a review, human in the loop for HIPAA compliance reasons. I need to make sure that the information that's being given to this, customer of mine is accurate before I can sign off on it. document signatures, like think the things that do require you to have some level of approval on. And so we've built in some capabilities into the platform that help you bring a human in the loop, know who's the right human to bring in or the right pool of humans to bring in. And then another area that we've built out is agent assist. So if you are that human agent, you are getting a thorough summary of our discussion. You know where to pick up from without having to read through, the entire transcript. Like we'll give you the summary and tell you where to go next and what's been tried. So this whole bringing the human in to the workflow certainly has been around. That's been a part of our platform for quite a bit. Having humans interact with these agents, I think it's going to come more and more where we're going to actually be building in. I need Suzanne to sign this document. I need to make sure that she's signed it. I have a human who's verified that. Things along those lines.
Yeah, and then, from an IT leadership standpoint, um, how is managing these teams of human and AI agents going to change the workplace? What
Yeah.
does it mean, for organizations trying to absorb the tech and kind of figure out, where humans need to be in the loop and how that all works?
Yeah, I think this is a great challenge. I'm watching it unfold differently at different companies that I work with. Um, I think in one model, like these agents they have a record in the employee directory. So when you need something, like today, you might say, okay, who's the lead product manager for this product, Watsonx Orchestrate. Go into the directory, search, and you get a human. Well, you may be doing the same with agents. So I need, I need to access this information. Which is the best agent for me to work with? And then what are the results that I'm getting from that agent and being able to track that over time. So I do think that there are going to be agent managers who are responsible for a set of agents that they are producing for use. We're already seeing this happen. So I may, as an employee, have a set of agents that I've created that I make available for, let's say, users of my product. I own their record, I own their output, and that's important for you know the company to be able to see that I'm behind this agent and that I know how they're being managed. That's very much a possible next step that we see happening with some of the companies we work with.
Do those agent managers need to be technical? Whose responsibility is it if something technically goes awry with the agent?
Yeah, definitely. If they're building the agent,
Mm.
that's one thing. If they're managing the agent, they have to know how to evaluate the performance of that agent and whether or not it needs to be modified and work with the team who is building the agent on it. So I do think there's more of a technical skill, whether that you may not be the one who's actually doing the coding for it, but you almost the technical skill in this case is as the process expert. Is this actually giving me back the results that are needed and not just the results of the process as it is today, but should I be evolving this process as we move forward to make it more relevant to the types of scenarios that my constituents of this agent are dealing with now? And that very much the evolution of how I see agents going forward is they're not static. They're not just looking at like replicating a process and now I'm done. It's how do I evolve this process to best serve the needs of those who are using the process?
Yeah, and in the meantime, there have been there's been some talk about companies laying off workers in order to get some ROI on their AI investments or to recoup some of those costs that they've already put in. So is that a mistake? Do you see that kind of, continuing, or do you think people will pull back on that?
What I'm seeing is transitioning work from one. I have an individual who I'm working with to go do this manual work to now that individual is actually working on in a different scope where they have put the burden on their agent to go collect the work, do the summarization, do the reporting, do the number crunching, whatever it is that they've been doing that's very manual intense, perhaps switching that over to something that's more focused on strategic work. And we do see evidence of that in the workplace where they are um, lending themselves towards higher value activities that the agents aren't really doing at this point. I'll give you my own personal example. I can actually work with my agents to help me develop the roadmap for my product. From all the information that's coming in, from all the channels that I have. It's significant amount of manual effort that went into that prior to. Now that gives me the opportunity to step back and go do a better job of evaluating. Well, what are we actually putting into this roadmap that is going to matter the most? Where's the impact going to come from? Take more of a market lens on it. So some of those manual activities I do see transitioning to higher value activities in the roles.
So where do people get the expertise or the tools to translate their manual processes into something delegated to an agent? Is that something that Watsonx Orchestrate would fill for, or is there some other process?
Yeah, actually, we can take a lot of times the process is documented somewhere.
Mm,
So they'll have
mm,
like some type of it could be as simple as like a PDF or a Word document. It could be as complex as it's a business process management object that comes from a system that they use. And in both of those cases, I've seen examples where we can take that input and then convert that into let's say, a starter agent. And that starter agent gives you the structure, it gives you what the elements of the agent need to be. And then you can take that starter agent and then turn that into something that's more deeply tied into your systems if you need to, and then modify it from there. So we have a build with AI feature in Orchestrate. You can tell it what you want, including import a document in, and it will come back to you with that structure so that you can start from something versus starting from nothing.
Does that ever lead to new kinds of human to human collaboration, like between somebody technically and the back end platform helping a person build an agent or refine an agent?
There's definitely human to human collaboration between the process owners and the agent developers.
Mm,
I'm not sure that's new, but it's definitely critical to ensuring that the agent development is happening. And
mm.
also, when you use these automated tools, just like I mentioned, we have one too, ensuring that when it runs, it's running the right way, it's giving you the right output. Often, like, you can take this agent and maybe you can deploy it on your own, but if you want to make modifications or do any custom coding, that collaboration with the agent development team is also super helpful to have.
Great.
Not
Okay.
required all the time, but
Right.
definitely in certain use cases.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the chance to talk with you about this. Obviously, you have, a unique viewpoint on this area of growth for the industry, and I appreciate you sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me, Beth. It's been a pleasure talking with you about this.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to IT Ops Query. To learn more about enterprise software development and platform engineering, explore our content on Informa Tech Target sites. Find us on YouTube at our channel, Ion Tech. Subscribe to our podcast to receive the latest episodes as they drop. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Thank you for joining us.